Farewell for now.
What?
Farewell for now. Did I not prep you on this?
You may have mentioned something.
This is it, Craig. This is the last episode.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Should we make it?
Is it because we're going to talk about stuff and they're going to pull us off the air or what?
Well, certainly, there's some thoughts. I told you I wrote some thoughts down here, and you're like, you're not going to spring anything like crazy on me, are you? And I said, no, we don't. They're just some statements. So I got to thinking about it. We mentioned several episodes, or I did, that I met all of the goals that I had set out to do for Matt Logan Speaks specifically. Mm-hmm. And so, I got to thinking about that after we had the phone call, and I said, this will be our last episode. So we'll have to do farewell for now. Full transparency, the social media pages, I'm not going to let those go away or anything like that. But I do want to kind of address a few things, a few reasons why. One of the things that I wrote down, I wrote this down quite a while ago. If a person acknowledges evil, it must be fought by that person. That's why most people deny there's evil. They don't want to be uncomfortable and fight it. And so the deeper I get into researching all these things, the more I see the things that are very evil. And it's true and it's real. And I'm not denying it, and I'm not afraid to be uncomfortable to fight it. Mm-hmm. However, that's not the mission of what this is. And I wanted to be very careful that this didn't turn into that. And we've had a very difficult time getting guests on the show. And one of the big reasons why is because I do ask the questions. And I'm going to give you an example. So gas prices, everybody's talking about gas prices. Did you know that the gas prices are way up right now?
My checkbook has noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, somebody went on and, the whole green thing, and there's so many disingenuous arguments. Mm-hmm. So I asked the question to several people, the same exact question that we're saying, oh, no, it's okay that they're higher. It's good for the environment, less, the whole deal. Everybody knows the whole deal, right? So I asked the question. I said, so you've invested, $150K plus, $150,000 plus into being all green. So you have a windmill in your backyard. You have your house full of solar panels. How long ago did you buy your electric vehicle? If it's so green and you're riding a bike and you walk, I basically copy and pasted a question to about five, 6 people. Mm-hmm. And here's the response that I got back from each and every one of them. Crickets. I'm not saying these are random people that I've never met. Mm-hmm. These are not people that I've never had significant interactions with. These are people that I've known and had interactions with. Like serious interactions, not like bump into somebody at the gas station.
Right. So they're not just random people.
No. I found that very interesting.
You held their feet to the fire and they couldn't.
I asked the tough questions.
You asked a tough question.
And I do that with everybody. Doesn't matter who it is. Yeah. I ask myself the tough questions. And I've talked about that as well on episodes and things that I'm very transparent about, I understand I've made mistakes in my life. I understand that I haven't always handled conversations the way I maybe should have. And the list goes on, right? I've asked myself those tough questions. I advocate for distracted driving. It would be like me advocating for distracted driving and then texting all day on my phone while I'm driving. Probably not healthy.
A little contradictory, yeah.
Right. So the accountability and the questions that I ask are not just of other people, but they are also of myself. And I think that's important. Personally, I think that's important to note because I expect the same thing from myself and other people as well on the show, very specifically. And so when I'm asking those questions, people don't want to acknowledge that evil exists, because it does make them uncomfortable, because then they have to acknowledge the evil when they look in the mirror. And that's a very difficult thing to do, and I understand that fully. But it is real, it is true, and we can't meme our way out of life. Even though I post what people would call memes every day, that quote of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so there's some of those things that contributed to the decision. Frankly, there's financial reasons. This doesn't cost me anything, but time.
Time is valuable. And
right now, time is extremely valuable, because I have to make up that time because profits are down because of the exorbitant amount of inflation. And that's just the reality. And that's okay. I'm not saying it's bad. So that's kind of my beginning rant.
It's a pretty good start.
I have a whole list.
Oh, boy.
I'm kidding.
That's why you said don't turn on the timer.
I do. Right, exactly. No. I do have a whole list. But, the idea, maybe I should say, too, of this particular podcast was to escape the echo chamber. And if people are not willing to have a genuine conversation, it's very difficult to do that. That's the truth. It's difficult to escape the echo chamber. In other words, people want to create that echo chamber because it makes them feel good. They can go out to dinner and shoot the dung with people and not feel guilty about anything ever, right?
Right. Just repeating what they've heard.
Yeah.
The echo chamber.
And so, the echo chamber is more, the way I view it is more so that they reverberate the same thing and not try to get out of that. In
Mm-hmm.
other words, if someone comes to you and says, Craig, your blood is actually blue, we could probably say, well, science has told us it is blue until it gets oxygen, right? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not wrong. But in order to have that conversation and that understanding, we have to figure out where they're coming from.
Right.
And we can't figure out where they're coming from and saying that blood is blue, because I don't know that. Every time I get cut or whatever, it's red. So you see what I'm saying? So we want to understand where someone else is coming from. We have to have a two-way conversation.
Correct.
And so in order to do that, they have to say yes to have that conversation.
And that's been the battle.
It has been a battle. But then you get on the other side of people that are running for governor currently of the state of Minnesota, extremely willing to talk to an idiot like me. I'm not college educated. I'm not saying I'm not intelligent, but I'm not college educated. I do a ton of reading and research. And so people need to understand that difference within themselves as well.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And so if someone is willing to do that and have those difficult conversations, not with just me, but with other people, I think that we can all learn from that. And so what I learned from that when people keep saying no is I can't, I don't know if I want to say it this way, but
just let it go.
You can't beat a dead horse.
Right. You can't force somebody to get outside their comfort zone.
And that's an old saying, and I don't mean any disrespect by it, but yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Local politicians I've asked, some no reply. Some have been on the show and things like that. But for the most part, people want their little echo chambers because they don't want to be uncomfortable.
And people don't, I don't know, maybe people don't want to be held accountable for what they say, because once it's out there, it's out there.
For sure.
And I've had that come back to me where I've had, we joke about it all the time, but I've had snippets taken out of context and used to contradict something else that I felt or said. But again, it was taken out of context. So it wasn't a legitimate argument or rebuttal.
It was a very disingenuous argument for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. Once that's said, people take it for gospel, and that's what's the problem. And I think that's what we've been fighting against is take a step back and do a little bit of research, and don't believe everything that you read or hear or see. Just do a little bit of investigation, do a little bit of critical thinking, and does it pass the smell test, and does it pass the gut check test? And not that everything has to be doubted by any means, but if it sounds too good to be true, or there's so many cliches that you could say, but just use your head a little bit, think outside the box, maybe.
Right. And we've talked at length off camera about when the pandemic hit, and I was in airports in different cities that were really wildly ghost towns and normally aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And what I basically understood after a couple of months for sure, but even pretty quickly, we live in a time where intelligent people are being canceled. Doctors, and I mean, like, Dr. Jensen in our own state. We've got Dr. McCullough. I don't know if you've heard of, Dr. Malone. And we've got these renowned doctors that are being canceled because they didn't go along with the narrative. They just asked questions. They didn't even go against the narrative. They just said, wait, what about this?
Mm-hmm.
Ask some very critical thinking. So living in this kind of weird place where intelligent people are being canceled, maybe, dare I say, so they don't offend unintelligent people. It's kind of where we're at.
I think that would be a fair way to look at it, whether that's the case or not. It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, and I just, it's very, very interesting the place that we live in. Global elites are out there canceling basically people that would maybe be considered even elites themselves because they don't go with their narrative. That's a weird and maybe even dangerous place to be.
It's a scary thought. It's a very scary thought. Either get on board or just disappear.
Yeah.
It seems to kind of be the case right now.
And so, when I saw those things, it kind of, and I keep seeing them, and now the science, they say, has changed, which it never did change. The political science changed.
Mm-hmm.
When you see those things happening, there has to be kind of a decision of that acknowledgement of evil. And I'm not saying that I know what evil is. I know what some evil is for sure. And I'm not saying that is specifically evil or anything like that, but we have to acknowledge that it exists. We have to acknowledge that it is probably at very high levels. We have to look at things. There's so many things right now in the Biden administration that is wildly hypocritical. Even within Republican Party, they won't give any money or much money to President Trump to keep our own borders secure, but now we're $10 billion more than what Trump asked for Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. It's very sad, and we've talked about that and I'm not saying that, but we certainly can look at some of these things and acknowledge, or we should acknowledge anyway, that there's something kind of funny about that.
Oh, absolutely.
On all parties. I'm not saying just
this isn't
specifically
an R or a D thing.
No.
And that's, we could go down.
Yeah, and so just looking at those things kind of comes to a place of like, what do we do? Where do we go? How do we move forward? And I don't mean we as in you and I or the podcast specifically, but I mean as human beings and our relationship with others. When you have, I recently, I'm probably going to get like really nasty messages on this one, but I'm just going to say it. I got really ridiculed for changing so much, right? That I've changed. Well, I grew a beard. And,
We grew a beard. Yeah.
I mean, that's different. My hair, locks of love. I mentioned that in a podcast, and but so there's that change, I guess. But the change they meant is just simply as a person. And sure, I think that's important that we change as people, as we understand our belief system more, as we look at other belief systems to either firm up our beliefs or, some of those things. I think that definitely can be it. But what I said was I thought about it for a couple of days, and I came back to him and I said, I'm worshiping the same God that I have my entire life. I still believe in seeing a counselor as long as they're a counselor that align 100% with my belief system. I still do that. I kind of went down a line of that. I still love my kids even when they make the mistakes, and I don't say, oh, that's okay. If it's a mistake, it's a mistake, no matter who it is. And so I'm like, so I said, I don't really see the change. And you kind of went off on me, and I said, but let me ask you this. Who do you worship? This person has changed their religion. This person has changed their sexual orientation or how they identify or whatever, specifically you want to word it. And so it's very, very wild to see the struggles as we're doing this and continuing to ask those difficult questions. People say that I've changed when it's a projection of them changing. And so you have to look at this specific podcast and this specific mission. And if we have to fight against that, that's not what this specific podcast was designed to do.
Right.
And so those are tough questions I had to answer. And it just came to a place of my parents are getting older, thankfully. I want to spend better time with them. Well, maybe not with them. No. But at least to help their lives be more comfortable.
Right.
And so there's a lot of these. Yeah, I know we're kind of going off in a little bit of a different directions here, but it's the whole picture that has to be involved in the decision. And I believe it was. And, I don't believe as a core I have changed, and I don't want the podcast to slowly change into something else either. And that's why I think it has to hard end. Mm-hmm. Just it's, farewell for now.
Something new comes up, something new comes up.
But. Yeah. And it needs to have a whole different mission and vision statement.
Right.
So, yeah. I'll probably do some random videos here and there. Yeah. Hey, I'll plug my other. Let me, actually, you know what? I just thought of this. Can we see my sweatshirt? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay. So my sweatshirt, BU, right? Mm-hmm. That's that would kind of be a way to put it, like I'm in the BU stage of the mission. So I have that acronym SHINY. A lot of people that follow me and listen on a regular basis know, that stands for strong, hope, influential, necessary, you. And so I have different programs, so to speak. Like I have the part where you are shiny, so you are strong, you are hope. So I go in and I say that someone believes in you. Like I'm that person. I believe in you. I believe you are strong, Craig. I believe you are hope, and so on. And then I transition that into be. So now that someone believes in you, now you can be that. You can be strong. You can be hope. And then at the end of the whole thing, it's I am shiny. So where you have that kind of self-awareness and confidence, I guess, where you can say, I am strong.
Right.
I am hope. I am influential. I am necessary. And then I am you. So that I am you part is where I understand as a person that we are connected in more ways than we're not connected. And I don't mean in religion, and I don't mean in any of those things. I specifically mean in we all deal with a lot of the same issues. gas prices. just being dumb, but
life in Minnesota.
Yeah. And so, when you look at things from a broader, I guess, perspective and worldview, I travel a lot. I wrote a bunch of notes, talk about, I don't believe for a second we live in a racist country, because I am literally all throughout the country. Since the pandemic, I have been in 46 feet on the ground, been in 46 of the lower 48 states.
Do you know which ones you haven't been in? That's 2 states that you haven't been in.
Right. So Rhode Island and the Connecticut, is that the other one up over there?
How did you get to New England without going through Connecticut?
I went through it. I didn't have my feet on the ground.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Technicality.
Yep. Didn't have my feet on. Drove through it.
Okay.
Didn't have my feet on the ground.
That's a lot of travel.
So I interact with all religions. I interact with all types of people from all over the world every single week.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Thomas Sowell said it something similar to this. He said that he was asked a question if he thought America was a racist country, if there was racism in America, something like that. The question was asked, and he said that racism is alive, but it is on life support. And so it gets me thinking about some of those really interesting intellectual people and how they say that. And he is absolutely 100% right, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. What I see every day, the interactions between people, non-elite people that are selling us a narrative. Does racism exist? Sure, of course it does. Right. Is it prevalent?
Racism, or is it prejudice? Or we talked about this last week. And when I say prejudice, as in you're judging someone or something on first appearance. But that's not even human nature, that's animal nature, but a little bit of a dirt road there. But
no, I get what you're saying.
If you look hard enough, you're going to probably, in your mind, find racism in everything. But there's also reverse racism. And I think that's very prevalent at a high level. But there's a lot of people that don't think that can possibly exist. But by definition of racism, it's everywhere.
When, we hear from media, we hear from government officials, certainly in certain sections, they're always trying to separate the right from the left, always. They're always, and I wrote this down, they're always, or often at least, trying to separate white from black, rich from poor. They're using religion to then even separate it even more. And so they fabricate all these things, and they frame all these things a certain way to get you and I to fight, so that we don't fight the system.
Right. We're fighting over crumbs.
Right. When
we're not watching out what's going up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that, I don't know. So there's a lot going on in the world. But the reason I started to go down there was specifically because I have had conversations with people in our local area as of the last 4 to 5 months, I guess. And I'm like, you might have that in your community, but let me tell you, that's not normal. I don't see that.
Well, and the response to that's going to be because you don't live in those pocket neighborhoods. You're a white man. You don't see racism.
No, and that's true, for sure. However, again, and Does racism exist? Of course it does.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to be totally wiped out, unfortunately. That's
Mm-hmm.
just reality.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. It's not good. I'm not condoning it. I'll never say it's okay.
No.
But
let's.
it's like this. I can never say ever again in my entire life that my daughter did not die in a car crash. I can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
She did die in a car crash. That's a fact. Doesn't make it easy, but it does make it real.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not go away.
No.
Period. So just because, what is that saying? Just because it burns, it doesn't mean you're going to die. Something like that. I've
heard that before, yeah.
Something like that. I'm probably saying it wrong because, like I said, I'm not college educated. But, something like that.
Yeah.
Because something hurts doesn't mean that it will kill you. It doesn't mean you're going to die from it.
It doesn't kill you, makes you stronger.
That's absolutely true. So, again, we're kind of all over the place on this episode. So thank you very much for, putting up with all this. But it's just a reminder of the massive amount of nuance that goes into something like this, and to live life and all those things. There's just so many layers, and you have to understand that your personal layer, let me put it like this. I can talk to other people about them losing their child in a car crash, and not everybody's, but most everybody's experience is extremely different.
Right.
It's the same pain, completely different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Different levels of healing, different, all of it, just multiple layers of everything. And so when you get one party, and if you're listening, I'm doing air quotes, that says, this is the way it is and this is the way it should be, they're wrong. We need to have the guardrails on the road, and we all need to live within those guardrails. We all need to understand utopia is not going to happen.
No.
And that no one method is going to quote unquote solve the problem. Not one. It's going to take multiples. And it's going to take something like the Constitution with the Bill of Rights to say, here's the guardrails. Don't go outside of them.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Watch your own bobber.
If this show proceeded, we could have gotten that on a shirt.
We could have.
Watch your own bobber.
Maybe we should do a whole new show, and that's the whole theme.
But that would be kind of ironic.
A
show about watching your own bobber when we're watching other people not watching their own bobber.
The thing, that's definitely a criticism that I get, and we talked about that on other shows too. But one of the criticisms I get is well, you're talking about other things and other people, and I remind them that it's all public.
Right.
It's news stories that we, come up with the topics, or specifically talk about news stories, public figures like politicians or athletes or et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
It's all public information that everybody has access to.
Correct. We're just maybe analyzing it and not just taking it for face value.
Right. So I think there's to me personally, that's a very vast difference. I've never said that we, like you say, look at and evaluate and give opinion, but we're not a news organization and trying to, so anyway, I digress, but, I don't know. There's a lot that I have here, but, the bottom line is this is it. This is farewell for now. This podcast will not be resurrected. I might do something different. I've met all the goals happily. I wanted, starting out and doing the podcast, I wanted to be about 20 to 30% of it at the most. I've ended up being about 100% of it, with the exception of, having the guests, but you know what I mean? Like, I did start other podcasts where I wanted other hosts, and it just, there's a lot of reasons it didn't work. It doesn't really matter. You can say the pandemic, which is part of it. You can say, the way I run things, which is part of it. There's all kinds of different things that, they just didn't work. Pandemic being a large part of it, for sure.
Right. Well, and it's tough with, there were some other people that started the show, and it's tough schedule wise. We're not getting paid for this. So, and this isn't what was me. With my career, I have the flexibility, but with the other folks that had the gals that had started the show, they didn't have that flexibility.
Yeah.
And more than that.
And I don't mean just this show. I'm talking about the other.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, the other goals of Matt Logan Speaks.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, everybody. I have no hard feelings with anybody.
No,
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's just a lot of. It's super complicated. There's no one solid answer. The pandemic most certainly had a lot to do with it. But
and you got to pay your bills.
Oh yeah.
And with family health and all that stuff too, it's you have to prioritize things in life, and it's pretty easy when someone's sick or bills aren't getting paid.
Right.
Yeah.
I've had the attitude, or have tried, I should say, of do good, but don't tell anybody about it. Right.
Be humble in your acts of kindness.
Right. And so I struggle with talking about some of those things in myself. Believe it or not, and I've talked to my counselor at great length about these things, but there's a lot of things that in people I'm involved with that I could talk about and go like, "Woo, look at me." I've talked a little bit about some of it, but for the most part, I try to just do the things I'm going to do and do them. Doesn't matter who knows or doesn't know. Who it benefits is what matters. That's it. It's the bottom line.
Run for political office. That'll change your attitude.
Yeah, I could never do that. Yeah, I could never, ever, ever do that. One is, actually, you know what? The fear that I have, to be honest, about running for political office, Craig, would be I would win. No, I'm not kidding.
Crossed my mind.
I'm not. I'm being serious because the platform that I would run off of would dominate. I'm not even kidding. Completely dominate. And probably they'd probably, like, once I announce my platform, they'd probably want me to be president. It's that good.
Explain yourself.
All right. So there's basically three things non-negotiable for me. If I was ever elected office, it wouldn't matter if it was president or local. And three non-negotiables that everybody would completely stumble over themselves over.
So is this going to be like a bowl of green M&Ms?
No, it's way better than that.
Okay.
This is way better. The first non-negotiable, absolutely, in my district or if I were the president, period, and people would this is as bipartisan as you can imagine, and every policy behind that would fall into place beautifully, right? Everybody would agree. So I would start with all public restrooms have to have really loud music. I'd even be okay with country.
Okay.
Really loud music.
All right. Live or recorded?
No, just this big speakers, loud.
Awkward. Okay.
I mean, I'm talking like Guns N' Roses
like
back in the
level.
80s, like loud.
All right.
Right? All public, period.
Okay.
I mean, not negotiable.
Can you pick your music, or just it is?
I don't really
is?
care what it would be. The person that is in charge of that particular can totally pick the music. Country, I don't like country. You could put country. I don't care.
Right.
It's got to be loud.
Okay.
Like loud AF.
Okay. So nobody can hear anything.
Nothing.
No conversations in the bathroom.
No conversations.
No
You can't be
overheard
on
noises.
your phone. No. Yep.
All right. I can get on board with that.
Okay. See, it's going to get way better.
I hope so.
It's going to get way better. So that's the first non-negotiable, right?
Yeah.
The second non-negotiable is that no shiny floors in public restrooms.
There's a theme here.
So what do shiny floors do? They reflect.
They do reflect, yes, and they
So-
can be slippery.
So you're in a stall and you have a reflective floor.
You spent way too much time in public bathrooms. Oh,
I
man.
told you, this is it. I'm going to be president 2024. It's
Okay.
over.
Oh boy.
It's over. And then extremely insanely good ventilation in all public restrooms. That's the three non-negotiables.
You must spend an unbelievable amount of time in public bathrooms to think of
Perhaps.
this stuff. Perhaps. Public or just bathrooms?
A public bathroom, meaning like a restaurant or a gas station or an airport or anywhere where there's multiple people that can just publicly use it.
So it's not like a hands-free doorknobs or anything like that.
No.
It's noise, shiny floors,
Yep.
and
Ventilation.
ventilation.
Yep.
Okay.
Those are the three non-negotiables. And if I ran on that platform, I would be super worried I would become president of the United States in a heartbeat.
Because then you'd have to enforce it somehow.
I
Or
think
mandate it.
that'd be pretty easy.
I would think somebody would complain about it, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but
I
had to lighten it up a little
with
bit.
our options that we've had as of late, you may have a good chance.
It's possible, but
So
can
what
you
would
imagine,
what would the party be?
But can you imagine how practical I think after hearing that?
Mm-hmm. What's the party name? You're not DFL. I mean, they have the Green Party, so would it be
Party pooper,
the Party Pooper? Pooper Party. Okay.
something like that.
Oh my gosh, what a dirt road.
Yeah. Anyway, there's certain things, I'm a very, I just won't negotiate with people. And obviously I'm just making that light and a joke, but, I do think that, politically speaking, since we're talking politics, we need to be held accountable as people, and we need to hold people accountable at a level that we've not experienced, certainly in my lifetime. And I'm talking for the life-changing things. I see in people's vehicles when I work. I drive between 500 and 700 miles a day, ish. I see into hundreds of cars every day,
Mm-hmm.
and I see passengers and drivers alike on their phones and doing other weird things that they shouldn't do when they're driving.
That could be a special episode.
That could be
or a
special
book or a miniseries right there.
Right.
But
But
for another day.
when you're a passenger in a car and you're not holding the driver accountable for potentially ending your life in seconds, we have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that to bring in the distracted driving narrative here, but I will say that I do think of it in different ways because of the knowledge that I have. And I don't mean just the death of my daughter. I mean because of all the research I did after that happened and understanding it
Mm-hmm.
a lot more in our mental capacity and things like that. But when I see these things, we definitely live in a time that we don't hold anybody accountable, including those that hold our life in their hands at 80 miles an hour down the freeway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real interesting and uncomfortable place to be. And so if we can't do that, If I can't be a passenger in a car and hold the driver accountable because they're doing something that has a fairly high, something happens, you're going to be in pretty big trouble.
Right.
If I can't hold them accountable because it gets back to identifying that evil, that you have to fight it and you don't want to be uncomfortable to fight it, we're not going to hold our politicians accountable, not in our own party. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that's one of the big reasons that, politically speaking, dirt road, as you put it, is just not a place that would be ever comfortable for me.
Okay.
Because I would hold too many people accountable, and so I would be elected once, and then they'd make dang sure I was never coming back.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Just a personal experience I've had in the last month with working with a relative who's going through some medical stuff and working with a county up in the cities. There is absolutely zero accountability with our government employees.
Zero. Probably less than that.
It's infuriating trying to get even a return phone call from somebody, and there's no fallout for them because they're not going to get fired from their job because they didn't return 4 voicemails.
Right.
That's the problem with not all, but some of our government entities.
It's
elected or appointed.
Right. It is the elite mindset.
Absolutely. I'm untouchable.
Right. And I don't mean elite in the sense that you have billions of dollars, just the elite mindset where, like you say, they're untouchable. So,
or I'm tenured. I can do whatever I want.
Right. Which actually, maybe we'll end it with this. That's a interesting thing because there's this like viral tweet that's being shared everywhere. I'm not going to share who said it, but you can go look them up after if you listen to these words. But I don't even know who it is. But I'm not going to give somebody credit for this because I think it's ridiculous. It really speaks to our future, in my opinion. So I quote, "I want a soft life. I want ease. I want relaxation. I do not want to hustle. I do not want to grind. Grinding wears you down to brittle nothingness. I do not want to work my life away. I want enjoyment and rest, not as rewards, but as practice. My life will be a practice in joy." And everybody's cheering that on, and everybody's cheering that on. And I'm like, whoa.
There goes any innovation ever. If everybody took that time.
Have you ever seen Wall-E?
The cartoon?
Yeah.
Like Wall-E? Oh, it's been a long time.
Yeah. A bunch of
robots.
People on a ship, sitting in chairs, watching TV. And literally it talks about their bone structure deteriorating because they don't move. They don't do, and so that I'm afraid that mindset is scary.
And I've got some very close friends that's their mindset. And for them, that's fine. And they're just on cruise control. And hey, if that's how you want to live life, more power to you.
But it speaks to the elite mindset, and the elite mindset is that they want to be untouchable. So they want this life of ease and relaxation and don't want to hustle. And it's not as a reward to relax. They just want it. Mm-hmm. That means
work just enough to get.
No, they don't even want to do that.
Well, that's the sad part is,
and it's like,
we're
so
seeing that.
Right.
Just
so
give me some money to survive.
Productive society. When we tip, you look at that, and I'm an idiot, so I might be getting this way off. But when you tip that a certain way, and you've got society, too many government people working, too many bankers, too many lawyers, too many of those. When you tip that to a certain scale and you don't have people that produce, how can you sustain?
Right.
You can't.
No.
It's not possible.
Nope.
You won't have food. You won't have electricity. You won't have gas.
Or it's the 10% are going to do the work for the other 90.
And they won't.
And that's
no.
As you say, a tipping point. That seesaw.
And
there's a fine line.
And guess where that leads to? The elite have slaves.
Mm-hmm. You don't get a choice anymore.
You don't get a choice.
Yep.
And so that is where I'm at. And I have to decide what, I'm going to get into cows. I'm going to get into chickens. Big garden. Tested the garden last summer.
Mm-hmm.
Worked very well. Going to scale that up, and hey, going to work hard at it. So I need a little bit of time, Craig. Stop pressuring me to do this. No, I'm kidding. As you know, I'm completely kidding.
Yeah.
What do you? That's really it for me. Other than I'll wrap up with a thank you to all of our valuable
listeners and followers. I just want to say, of course, thank you to everybody that's listened and given us feedback and likes and all that good stuff. But thank you for reaching out to me a year and a half ago and continuing to have me be on your show. It's definitely the show and discussions with you on and off there have definitely changed me. I know they have, because they've made me think outside of the box for myself and do a little bit more critical thinking. And, I've learned a few lessons. I think I've done a good job of not editing what I've said. I think I speak pretty freely, and whether that I came in with that or whether I learned that from being on the show with you, but thanks for the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun. We've had some really good conversations and some very tough topics and some very fun topics, but every week has been fun, and I've never woken up and thought, I have to go out to Matt's house today. It's been fun every week. So thank you for that.
That's very, very nice. I appreciate that. And thanks for saying yes. I think more people need to say yes. Mm-hmm. Not in the sense of the Jim Carrey movie, Say Yes, but, it's, or Yes Man or whatever. But in the sense of like, yes, I'm willing to put my butt in the hot seat and answer tough questions and give tough opinions. Mm-hmm. And so thank you for that, because I've really learned people can spout off online and do all kinds of stuff, but they really don't want to actually answer any questions. Why do you believe that? How did you come to that conclusion? What's none of it. And so thank you for being brave to do that and courageous and, sexy
stupid,
and
whatever.
all that.
You say sexy, I say stupid. Either way.
But I'm going to keep doing Maddie's Movie Mix. I know that there's a few dozen people that are loyal to both, so I appreciate you all for that very much. Craig is officially, you're invited to come on if you want to talk movies with Tyler and I. And that is another place that's part of the BU process in the the mission and the vision. And so I like being me, and I'm going to keep doing that. It's a very good thing to fill my bucket, because I love movies. You've seen my collection. I've collected for 30 some years, pre-DVDs and all that stuff. But so it's going to be fun. And so if Maddie's Movie Mix, you can find it just pretty much everywhere. But for now, farewell.
Until next time.